Hi, I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're watching Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On today's episode of Eating W's, we have my 2023 top 10 quarterback prediction list. Now, usually I would say before we get into that, we have some news, but since we just had an episode yesterday, no more new news. So let's just jump right into it. Starting with my honorable mention. Like I mentioned in last episode, Callen kind of used his as a wild card with Jordan Love, and I'm using mine just the same. But I'm going with Washington Commander quarterback Sam Howell. Now, this is a 2021 rookie that I really liked coming out of UNC last year. He was truly one of my favorite quarterback prospects all around, and they ended up getting him for at a pretty decent spot. And now he becomes their starter after only one season. But the little bit he played last year, he's kind of like Taylor Heinicke in my opinion, where he doesn't have all the physical talent, doesn't have the brain of all these quarterbacks, but just has the heart. He plays hard, he plays with his team, he plays as a leader. Those are just things I really like to see. So this being his first year starting, I don't think he's quite going to crack the top 10 or maybe even the top 15 by any means. But I think that he's going to really surprise people with the way he plays.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick. He kind of, is in the same situation as Jordan Love a little bit, or he sat for a couple years now and had the chance to kind of play in spot games.
And you got Curtis Samuels, you got an absolute monster like Terry McLaurin.
They definitely have weapons.
Pretty good rotation in that backfield with a decent offensive line, so they're not going to rely on the pass that much. He's in a half-decent situation. I think he'll be okay. And then jumping into my number 10, I have just as much of a wild card, but a guy I do think will just break the top 10. I have new Tampa Bay Buccaneer Baker Mayfield. Now, just kind of like Howell, I can pretty much repeat myself exactly. Doesn't have all the physical, doesn't have all the mental talent, but just has the heart and has even more talent around him there in Tampa Bay. Even with the poor, decrepit corpse of Tom Brady playing the worst football he's probably ever played in his career, which ironically wasn't terrible, it's just comparatively wasn't near as good. They still had a good team, and they still do. They have Mike Evans. They re-signed and extended Chris Godwin a few years ago. They're getting that offensive line put back together a little bit. The only true thing that makes me nervous is they're struggling in the running back division of it a little bit, but they actually have a half-decent receiving running back. So maybe that's a good thing right there. Their defense still has a crazy amount of really good names on it. Baker plays with heart, and he surprises people. So I think he does it again in 2023.
And that's definitely could be a team that could do it. It's a team that plays with heart. They're used to playing with Brady, who played with a lot of heart too.
Yep. And then, so another fun thing about Mayfield and the Bucs in general is they're in a wide open division right now. I mean,
That's
you
true.
got a rookie quarterback in Carolina. The Saints have a new quarterback, unproven in Derek Carr. Why can't I think of the fourth team in the NFC South?
Falcons?
The
Desmond
Falcons?
Ridder?
Oh, God, yeah. Talk about a freaking question mark. And no wonder I couldn't think of them. It's because they're barely even a team anymore. Good God. But yeah, I think the Bucs have a good chance to win that division.
They're just going to run the ball 90 times a game.
I mean, what else are they going to do? That's all they have for the poor Atlanta Falcon fans.
Well, with Cordell Patterson and Bijan Robinson and...
I'm excited to watch Bijan Robinson. That's gonna be fun.
He's going to be an exciting player to watch.
Jumping to my number 9 and keeping it in the NFC, I have Seattle Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith. My man finally got paid. He shocked the world last year with his individual performance and the Seahawks performance in general. You talk about stacked talent around you. They don't have an upper echelon offensive line, but they have a good enough one. They have young beast Kenny Walker in the backfield, Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State. They have Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf at wide receiver.
And now Jackson Smith-Njigba.
I forgot they drafted him. A young and up-and-coming defense, an experienced head coach in Pete Carroll. Everything is set up for him to do it, and he did it well last year. and I see him doing even better this year.
He just got to show he can consistently continue now to build off of that very impressive last year stats,
Which, poor Geno Smith, that's what he hasn't been able to do. Ever since the Jets drafted him and all the other places he jumped around, he's been able to string some games together, but I've never seen him string a whole year together, which I would say he did last year.
Yeah.
So now the real question is, can he string a whole 2 years together back to back?
That will be the interesting point. Now, that all depends on how far the Seahawks will go then.
Yep. And then now jumping to the opposite of stringing games together, we're going to go somebody who had their worst season ever last year. Number 8, I have Denver Bronco quarterback Russell Wilson. Poor Russell Wilson. You want to talk about shock the world. It's ironic I have him and Geno Smith back to back. I just realized that. But he shocked the world in the dead opposite way, where he was put in an ideal situation as an all-star player and crumbled. But you'll see the trend in this list so far has been playing with heart. He plays with some of the most heart I have ever seen. I don't think he is going to allow that personally or as a team to happen again. They get rid of Nathaniel Hackett, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
They bring in Sean Payton.
I knew they brought in someone big. I truly think Hackett was the problem. I was anti-Hackett hiring from the beginning because I knew damn well
he didn't even call plays.
He was not
doing
anything in Green Bay. I know damn well he wasn't. I think it's going to be a huge swing, and we are going to see a whole new Denver Broncos team, and especially a whole new Russell Wilson. Or I guess a back-to-form Russell Wilson.
Seattle Seahawks Russell Wilson.
Exactly, yeah.
Where he was able to play with not as much talent around him. It's weird that he, crumbled so much with so much more talent around him. But if he's able to, show that he can recoup and really show the chemistry with Sean Payton and build more relationships with his team, I think that they definitely could turn it around.
Yeah, and I mean, he had Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton already last year, and now he'll actually have Tim Patrick, who sadly went down with an ACL before the season started last year, but he'll be back and at full speed, so that'll be nice. Jumping to number 7 and going back to the NFC, I have Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I kind of mentioned it yesterday with Callan. I think he's a little bit of a question mark, but I do have him up in this middle of the pack here in the top 10. He's just a hell of an athlete, to say the least, and kind of like Geno, it's just going to be if he can string together 2 good seasons.
Yeah, it all depends on his consistency to build on such an impressive year. If, again, showing that he can play it together year in and year out, not just a 1-year flash.
Yeah, and then we're just going to fly through these last 6 here because Callan and I's list are very similar except for one little fun outlier. But jumping back to the AFC for number 6, I'm going with Jacksonville quarterback Trevor Lawrence. He's young, he has the size, the physical talent. Doug Peterson is really helping him out and helping him learn that game a little more on a mental aspect of it. He has another year working with Zay Jones, who really started to prove himself last year, as well as, of course, Christian Kirk, who got paid a lot of money and surprisingly actually kind of paid off, to be honest. I thought he played really well and turned that team around. I can see Evan Ingram having another really big year at that flex tight end position. Jacksonville might be scary.
Jacksonville's got a lot of weapons, and everyone forgets they have Calvin Ridley now.
Oh, man, I forgot about that.
Number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, because he was a number 1 down in Atlanta, and I guess he needed a change of scenery for whatever reason.
Gosh, they can truly move Kirk into that slot position like he was in Arizona. Let Zay Jones and now Calvin Ridley do their stuff on the outside, and then throw in Evan Ingram wherever the hell you want. Clemson teammate Travis Etienne. Hell, Trevor Lawrence might even be moving up my list as we get closer to the season.
Yeah, I expect a big year out of Trevor Lawrence this year.
But for now, the man I have in front of him is number 5, Joe Burrow. Like I mentioned in Callan's episode, I think he's a little overrated. A lot of people have him top 3. I think if anything, he just barely makes the top 5 and might even get passed up by Trevor Lawrence before it's all said and done. But nonetheless, he's a really good player, and sticking with my trend, player with a lot of heart.
Yeah, he definitely plays with a lot of heart. Like I said, he's got the really connection with that city. He's got the confidence you look for in a championship-winning quarterback. So I agree with your point that he could be overrated because of the talent around him and the chemistry that he's already built with that talent. But I think that, if he would be able to carry a team if either of those wide receivers went down.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see because he's been lucky enough. I mean, it's not a bad thing by any means, but like a lot of the other quarterbacks on this list, or I guess different from the other quarterbacks on this list, he's never been really forced to carry that team. He's gotten pretty lucky with injury aside from his rookie year on himself and his team around him. So I'd be curious if he could carry a team like some of the other guys could. Speaking of someone who could carry a team, moving on to my number 4, none other than Kirk Cousins, the Vikings quarterback. Is there bias in this placement? Hell yes, there's bias in this placement. But Kirk really came out of his shell last year. You could tell he was having more fun than ever before,
definitely.
Which is a big thing. He was always the you like that guy. Now he's the chain on the airplane dancing guy. It's just fun to see a quarterback evolve in different ways than just as a player, kind of to see them almost evolve as a person. He's got so much talent around him. Jordan Addison, we got him in the draft. TJ Hawkinson is his second year. Blah, 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 all the stuff I said yesterday. 4 is a little high, but I think Kirk Cousins is truly a top 10 and easily could be a top 5 quarterback.
I would agree with that. With the numbers he put up last year, it definitely could be. Like I said, if not for the numbers that Hurts and Mahomes put up, he quietly had an MVP caliber season. So he just needs to build off of that and show that he can continue to improve. And, doing the 2 chains, Kirk Cousins, he reminds me of the guy in White and Nerdy, the Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh, the Weird Al Yankovic cover.
He fits right into that perfectly.
We need to slap that over a video of his dance because you're right, it is just perfect. Fun little tidbit that I saw on Twitter the other day too. I can't remember the exact numbers, but if you follow the trend of what he's done every season, Justin Jefferson has gotten not exactly, but close to exactly 200 more receiving yards each season that he's played. And he had 1,800 last year. So technically, he's on track to break 2,000 and break the NFL record for receiving yards in a season.
No one's ever done it.
Kurt would be a big part of that, that's for sure. So now jumping into my top 3 and starting off with one of my favorite quarterbacks on the list, Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert. I think that he is constantly getting put in bad situations ever since he got drafted in 2020. I mean, his first game was against the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, and he didn't know he was starting until about an hour before the game even started.
The old Geno Smith puncture the lung game.
He even played pretty damn well in that. I think he beat Tyrod. Close enough.
I got Geno in my head.
They're actually
Tyrod Taylor.
They're actually ironically pretty similar career-wise, so it's actually funny that you made that mistake. But he's just always been in the bad situations, but he's always been able to make the best out of it. Always been able to put up the numbers. And now I think with Kellen Moore at offensive coordinator, he's in one of the better positions he's ever been in. So I'll be excited to see what he does.
Yeah, he definitely has proved that he can carry a team and he can put up the big numbers. He has all the weapons around him. They made that questionable draft pick of drafting Quentin Johnson after they already have so many big-bodied wide receivers. But I guess if you're going to have that, you might as well use it to your advantage.
Their top 4 wide receivers, I want to say, are all over like 6'4", 6'5". It's absolutely crazy. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they're doing, but they apparently have some sort of plan going for them. And then moving on to my number 2, I have Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes. I could not quite put him at number 1. They just have so much rotation in that wide receiver room. He's going to be a hell of a quarterback. Respect the hell out of him. He could easily be a number 1, especially for a reason that I'll mention in a little bit here when I talk about my number 1. But for now, I have him sitting at my number 2.
Yeah, and like you said, with the rotation of the offensive pieces, the only consistency really is Travis Kelce, and
which is a nice consistency
to have. It definitely has shown that can carry a team, but with the big change that I'm interested in seeing is the change in offensive coordinator and how that really, if that really affects anything that Mahomes does.
And I've only ever heard amazing things about Bieniemy and his offensive mind, so we'll see how they can do without it. And then finally, my number one, you already know who it is by process of elimination, Bills quarterback Josh Allen. You can hear me say 100 things about how good he is, both arm talent-wise and leg talent-wise, everything-wise. He could even go out there and play tight end and still be an absolute beast blocking. The reason that I actually would maybe drop him down is fully superstition, but it's the Madden cover curse.
Madden cover curse.
It's
yes.
a real thing. Not everybody is so extreme that they have a season-ending injury. Almost everybody has some sort of regression just because they had such a good season last year. But it's ironic that he made it, because Josh Allen, aside from his rookie year in maybe 2018, had one of the lesser seasons that he's had in his career with a lot of interceptions. So I mean, if he has the Madden cover curse regression, he's moving into dangerous territory.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still going to be a top 3 quarterback even with that regression. And for now, I'll just keep him at my number 1 because I made this before he got announced as the cover. But whatever.
He's one of those gunslinging quarterbacks. He'll have 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions and win the game.
Yeah.
He's one of those kind of guys. Reminds me of Brett Favre a little bit when Favre was in his prime. But yeah, definitely Josh Allen has all the tools you look for in a top quarterback. I think the only thing that could really get him is that nip in the butt of the Madden curse.
Yeah. And you want to talk about my trend of playing with heart and just playing gritty. No one sums it up better than Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my top 10 quarterback prediction list for 2023. Make sure to tune in for next week episodes when Cal and I each go over our top 10 running back duo predictions for the 2023 season. But until then, don't forget
to eat the W.